بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الرحمن علم الفرقان خلق الانسان علمہ البیان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر یسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجنة من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فإذا شقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. ذواتا أفنان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهما عينان تجريان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهما من كل فاكهة زوجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجان الجنتين دان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهن قاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. ومن دونهما جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. مدهامتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهن خيرة حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. حرم مقصورات في الخيام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. عن جابر بن عبد اللہ الانصاری عن فاطمۃ الزہراء علیہ السلام بنت رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ انہا قالت دخل علی ابی رسول اللہ فی بعض الایام فقال السلام علیک یا فاطمہ فقلت علیک السلام قال انی اجید فی بدنی ضعفا فقلت له اعیذک باللہ یا ابتہ من الضعف فقال یا فاطمہ ایتینی بالکساء الیمنی فغطینی بی فأتیتہ بالکساء الیمنی فغطیتہ بہ وصرت انظر الیہ وإذا وجہہ یتلالأ کأنہ البدر فی لیلۃ تمامہ وکمالہ. اللہ فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمة فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء. الله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمة فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء فقال عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت عليك السلام يا أبو الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن أمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله وأتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا سيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبته يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزعتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم أنا حرب لمن حربهم وسلم لمن سلمهم وعدو لمن عداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. الله صل على. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبتي هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل البيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذنوا لي يا رسول الله؟ وقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. الله صل على محمد. فقال لي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. اللهم محمد. فقال برسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شياطين ومحبين وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وسئدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسئدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
صلوات. افسوس نبی زادیوں کا شام میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو افسوس سر ننگے وہ ماں بہنوں کا دربار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو افسوس چھپتی تھی نبی زادی کے پیچھے کس شرم و حیا سے اور شمر کا ان بیبیوں کے نام بتانا سجاد سے پوچھو افسوس بیٹھے ہوئے دربار میں سب چھوٹے بڑے تھے سادات کھڑے تھے سر تشت میں رکھا ہوا زینب کو دکھانا سجاد سے پوچھو افسوس جب دختر شبیر نے زندان میں قضا کی آفت کی گھڑی تھی وہ ننھی سی میت بندھے ہاتھوں سے اٹھانا سجاد سے پوچھو افسوس ظالم لبے سرور پہ چھری مار رہا تھا وہ وقت عجب تھا اس وقت پھوپھی بہنوں سے اشکوں کو چھپانا سجاد سے پوچھو افسوس سر باپ کا گودی میں لیے مر گئی بچی غش کر گئی بچی منہ باپ کے منہ پر سے سکینہ کا ہٹانا سجاد سے پوچھو افسوس صلوات.
بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. سجاد میں زینب ہوں، میرے سر پہ ردا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا مجمع ہے کوفیوں کا، میرے چلنے کی جا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. سجاد میں زینب ہوں، میرے سر پہ ردا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. سجاد میرے سر سے آدھا نے چھینی چادر، بلوے میں نبی زادی پھر وائی گئی در در، مل جائے ردا مجھ کو اور میری دعا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. سجاد میں زینب ہوں، میرے سر پہ ردا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. سجاد چلوں کیسے لاکھوں ہے تماشائی، یاد آتا ہے رہ رہ کے عباس میرا بھائی، فریاد کروں تجھ سے اب تیری سوا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. سجاد میں زینب ہوں، میرے سر پہ ردا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. سجاد تیری حالت دیکھی نہیں جاتی ہے، بے پردہ مجھے دیکھے یہ بات رلاتی ہے، سجاد تیرا کانٹھوں پہ چل کوئی نہیں ہے، بازار جفا. سجاد میں زینب ہوں، میرے سر پہ ردا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. مجمع ہے کوفیوں کا، میرے چلنے کی جا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. سجاد میں زینب ہوں، میرے سر پہ ردا کوئی نہیں، بازار جفا. صلوات.
صلوات. Before I begin, I know today's majlis is about Sajjad alayhi salam, of course, but I felt it in my heart to write about Hazrat Abbas, as when he fell, it was him who was the protector of our Imams and Imamat, so I wanted to dedicate this poem for him, and of course to Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, with your permission. They ask Hussein on Karbala's plains, where is your shield? Where is your armor? His gaze would rise towards the moon, whom reflects the glow of his father. Here is the shadow of Ali, who knew to say Hussein before his own name. This is the pride of al-Baneen, who served Zahra before her own need. When arms were severed and stars would bleed, al-Baneen said selflessly, Take more, take more, take more from me. My Abbas exists for loyalty. Even planets would crumble in the gravity of Abbas's sacrifice and calamity. In the shadow of his flag, Sakina slept sound. His hand was the hijab to which Zainab bound. In his stride, he'd show Ali is alive. Mountains would tremble upon his battle cry. How swift his sword on Siffin he'd hint, how veiled moon's eyes have a lion's glint. And if Ali is the gate which leads to Muhammad, Abbas is the door which leads to Hussein, the backbone of Imamat which rises each night to protect the Quran from being slain. Children would cling towards Abbas, how stars surround the moon. Abbas would circle Zainab each step, how the moon orbits earth each night. His only goal was to ensure the tides of grief won't drown her in fright. Yet arrows would soon envelop his body, how meteors marked the face of the moon. Those eyes which glanced upon parched lips of children who would soon be trampled to bits. Those lips would quiver upon his horse as he'd question why his promise fell short. The moon veiled again, although now full, as blood paints his face with each arrow's pull. Setting with every strike that would slam, Bani Hashim's moon hit the sand. The final eclipse would arise as Abbas calls Hussein. The sun and moon come face to face, brotherhood in his final embrace. And while the moon sought its return towards those tents now galaxies away, to shade Sakina from the scorching sun, her lips cracked from the tyranny. The full moon was split entirely. Hussein's back broke from the gravity of grief, while Zainab would search for her brother's remains with only the light from the tents ablaze. The moon never rose with its gentle rays, only darkness envelops Karbala's plains. Every arrow would now pierce Hussein. His armor lay in two crescents slain. Salawat.
Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The piece that I've chosen to share tonight, inshallah, is dedicated to the first person to hear about the tragedy of Karbala. O beloved of Allah, O orphan of Makkah, what tragedies did your eyes behold? What abuse did you endure, though you were Sadiq and Al-Amin? They met your invitation with barbed words and jagged pebbles, but what wound cut your flesh and in your heart settled? They drove you from the city with sanctions and threats until the night sky was your blanket, and upon the hard earth you slept. But what pain did you hold and keep close to your chest? They mocked your name in the streets, calling you madman and possessed, closing their ears, throwing refuse when Tawheed was professed. But what broke your heart, Ya Muhammad, and caused you to proclaim, the suffering I've endured, no prophet has sustained? Perhaps this suffering came to you in whispered words and angelic conversation. Ya Rasulullah, what did Jibreel narrate to you of the crimes of your nation? How they will mask their faces and cut a piece of your flesh. How they knock arrows, then let fly and aim for your chest. Only the heart into which the Quran was revealed could bear such grief, to know what they would do and how your daughter would weep. O Habibullah, did your heart tremble when you held your dear one? The way he would hold his own son, begging for his thirst to be undone. Did you see Thawrullah under the kisa, while his body would soon lay uncovered in Karbala? Did your heart quake with zilzal shake when the Qamar would fall and Hussein's back would break? But in those final moments, Ya Nabi, how could your heart withstand such agony? Hussein stands alone, surrounded by sealed hearts, deaf ears, and eyes that cannot see. Weary and wounded, his every breath a tasbih. O Muhammad, come see the lonely man left by himself in a strange land. The one who none could bear to slay with their own hands, the one whose killers wept at his beauty as he called to Allah, accept this sacrifice from me. I have given until there is nothing left but thee. And the response to Muhammad's son comes clearly, O contented soul, return back to me. Salawat.
القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام. May Allah increase our reward and your reward on account of commemorating the tragedy of Karbala. Today we are remembering Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And Imam Sajjad was a mujahid of Islam. He was a warrior of Islam. One of the misconceptions that some of us have today is that Imam Sajjad was not a mujahid. And sometimes we think of Imam Sajjad as that Imam who was bimar, the Imam who was sick. And although it is true that the Imam was sick during the tragedy of Karbala, and this was a wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you find that the Imam recovered during the trip to Kufa or from Kufa to Sham. However, we have repeated it so many times, or sometimes in our aza we repeat it so many times. In our marthia and nawha recitations, we draw so much attention to it that sometimes a young person growing up in the community assumes that Imam Sajjad was bimar. He was sick from the year 61 after Hijrah until the year 95 after Hijrah. Whereas Imam Sajjad was a mujahid of Islam. Okay. The way Imam al-Hussein was a mujahid of Islam, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam was also a mujahid, a warrior of Islam. What's important to understand here is that the jihad of Imam al-Hussein was different from the jihad of Imam Sajjad. The jihad of Imam al-Hussein was the jihad of qital. It was the jihad that was fought on the battlefield. It was the jihad that was fought with swords and spears. Okay. But the jihad of Imam As-Sajjad was primarily the jihad of tabyin. Jihad of tabyin means the jihad of explaining, the jihad of teaching, the jihad of taking the message of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein to Kufa and to Sham and back to Medina. This battle is not fought with swords. This battle is not fought with spears. This battle is fought with words and concepts and ideas and narratives. Right? And it's important for us to appreciate the jihad of Imam As-Sajjad as the jihad of tabyin. Now today, inshallah, I'd like to speak to you in the time that we have about the ways in which Imam As-Sajjad resisted against the oppression and continued in the footsteps of his father. Okay? But before we come to that, the topic that we have been given today is resisting oppression with dignity. And one of the things we can learn from the household of the Holy Prophet is how to live a life of dignity. One of the most important messages of Karbala is the message of dignity. I wish sometimes as we go through the months of Muharram and Safar, we would listen to the words of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, the dua of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, the speeches of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, the letters of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, the rajz. Rajz was a type of poetry. The poetry of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. What did he say on the day of Ashura? One of the wordings that comes out over and over again is the wording of izzah, of dignity. Even hayhat minna dhilla is an expression of what? Of innate sense of dignity. Now, when it comes to izzah, the way we understand izzah is different from the way Islam understands izzah. You find in our culture, izzah is a very common expression. For example, sometimes we say in Urdu, ye izzat ki baat hai. So what do we mean that ye izzat ki baat hai? Right? What we mean is that if we don't do things in a certain way, then people are not going to respect us. For example, if I don't wear these clothes, then people are not going to give izzah to me. And if I wear these clothes, then people are going to do what? Then they'll give izzah to me. Okay? This is not izzah. This is the epitome of dhillah. When a person does not have an innate sense of dignity, when a person does not value himself, when a person does not know his own self-worth, when a person does not respect himself, then he needs others to respect him. Then he needs others to show respect to him. Then he needs others to say salamun alaykum to him. Right? When we come to the household and the doorstep of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they teach us that izzah is something that comes from within you. Izzah is not something that people can give to you. Okay? Very beautiful hadith now from the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. I believe this is hadith from Imam As-Sadiq alayhi afdalus salati was salam. He says, أوحى الله تعالى إلى داود عليه السلام. One day Allah revealed to Prophet Dawood, Ya Dawood, O Dawood, إني وضعت خمسة في خمسة. I've placed 5 things in 5 things. والناس يطلبونها في خمسة غيرها فلا يجدونها. However, people look for those 5 things in 5 other things. So then they don't find it. I'll only tell you the first 2 because we want to continue with the lecture for today. Allah says to Dawood, وَضَعْتُ الْعِلْمَ فِي الْجُوعِ وَالْجُهْدِ. I have placed knowledge in hunger and struggle. وَهُمْ يَطْلُبُونَهُ فِي الشِّبْعِ وَالرَّاحَةِ. But people seek knowledge where? They seek it in satiating their stomach and in comfort. فَلَا يَجِدُونَ. So they don't find knowledge. You find that sometimes we want knowledge on our terms. We want knowledge in our comfort. We want knowledge, but knowledge should come to us. We want knowledge the way we want it. Masalan, sometimes we say it should be engaging. It shouldn't be too long. I shouldn't have to travel to it. It should come to me. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have put knowledge in struggle. It should come without I having to ask a question. So no. If you want to learn, you must struggle to ask questions. Okay? Then Allah says to Prophet Dawood, He says, وَوَضَعْتُ الْعِزَّةَ فِي طَاعَتِي. And I have put honor and dignity where? I have put honor and dignity in obedience to me. وَهُمْ يَطْلُبُونَهُ فِي خِدْمَةِ السُّلْطَانِ. But they seek for honor and dignity in serving those who are in power, serving the majority, serving the wealthy, serving the prominent people of society, pleasing them. فَلَا يَجِدُونَ. So they don't find izzah. Okay? And what we learn from this is that if a person does not respect himself, others are not going to respect him. If a person does not value himself, others are not going to value him. Okay? If a person does not know his own self-worth, others cannot give you a sense of self-worth. You have to know it. Okay? When a person has a sense of self-worth, now, it doesn't matter to him whether he's alone, whether he's poor, whether he's against the majority, whether he is in captivity. That person still stands for the truth. That person still stands for justice. That person still stands for what is right. Okay? And this is the lesson that we learn from our fourth Imam. When he was in Sham, Imam alayhi salam was in captivity. His hands were tied. His legs were tied. He was made to sit below. Yazid was sitting on the throne. And that did not stop the Imam from speaking truth to power. That's a sense of innate izzah. Okay? Now let's come to the ways that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he protested, he resisted against oppression with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The first way Imam Sajjad alayhi salam resists oppression is by speaking truth to power. Imam alayhi salam changed the situation in Sham with his khutbah, with his sermons. We have to understand the background of Sham. Sham was under Umayyad rule for 30 years. And you find that Sham was completely under the Umayyad propaganda. They had complete control over Sham. They had complete control over the narrative in Sham. In fact, you know that when news of the martyrdom of the first Imam reached the people of Sham, their first question was what? Their first question was, what was Ali doing in the masjid? We heard that Ali did not used to pray. That's the level of complete control they had over Sham. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he comes into Sham for a few days. In those few days, he is lecturing them once or at most twice. And he completely changes the environment of Sham. In fact, you know that once Imam Sajjad gave his khutbah in the court of Yazid, Yazid could no longer keep the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam in Sham anymore. But how did he do that? There's a very profound conversation that happens in the court. When Imam Sajjad is brought into the court or the masjid, this was in the masjid, Yazid tells the khatib, the speaker, to go on the mimbar. Yes? And he tells him to go on the mimbar and to address the people, to praise the Bani Umayyah, to insult the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So he does that. Okay. Now when he completes it, Imam Sajjad tells Yazid, now allow me to go and sit on the mimbar. He didn't call it the mimbar. He called it pieces of wood. Okay. It also depends what is being spoken on the mimbar. Right. So now look, the Khatib went and did what? He insulted the Ahlul Bayt. He used lowly language. He used insulting language. The Imam alayhi salam responded, but how did he respond? He responded with dignity. He responded with aql. He responded with intellect. He responded with intellectual argument to him. When Imam alayhi salam, when the Khatib finished, Imam addressed him and said to him, اشتريت مرضات المخلوقين بسخط الخالق. Do you know what you have done? Let me tell you what you have done. You have bought the pleasure of the creatures of God at the cost of what? At the cost of displeasing the Creator. And so you have made for yourself a place in the fire of hell. Look at the logical way in which the Imam presents to him. Imam also speaks to Yazid. And he challenges Yazid. And Imam is not afraid to challenge Yazid with fasaha, with eloquence, with shuja'ah, with courage. Okay? When Imam was giving the sermon, there comes a time when people start to cry. And Yazid senses danger. So Yazid tells the mu'adhin, go and give what? Go and give the adhan. So when the mu'adhin goes and gives the adhan, as the mu'adhin says, Allahu Akbar, the Imam responds. The mu'adhin says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the Imam says, Shahida sha'ri wa bashari, my entire being and existence. It also testifies there is no God but Allah. The moment the mu'adhin said the second shahada, Imam told the mu'adhin, stop. And he said, Yazid, tell me, this Muhammad that is being spoken about, is he your grandfather or is he my grandfather? If you say that he's your grandfather, you have lied. And if you say that he is my grandfather, then tell me, why did you martyr and massacre his son in the plains of Karbala? Okay. Logical response, intellectual response, a dignified response over there. Now I don't want to take one message away from this. I want us to remember, dear brothers, that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam was only there for a few days. He had 1 or 2 opportunities to speak. And he was able to change the political environment of Sham. In fact, you find right in that gathering, people objected to Yazid. Right after that gathering, the women in the family of Yazid, they went looking for the head of Imam al-Hussein. And they started to wash the head of the Imam and to show reverence to it and to say, how can you treat him like this? I want us to understand the power of truth. Okay? I know that we're living in a very difficult circumstance here. We are in a minority. Our resources are limited. Yes, our resources are limited. Our people are limited. Maybe our capacity is limited. And sometimes brothers ask me, they say, do you really think we're able to build Iman in this part of the world? Do you really think we can build a community in this part of the world? I don't know the greater Toronto area very well, but I do understand that Milton is a little bit far from the main area. Yeah. So you're trying to, I think, build a community over here, inshallah. So you wonder to yourself, can we really do it? Yeah. And one thing we have to understand is that truth and falsehood are not the same. The power of truth is not the same as the power of falsehood. A little bit of the truth goes a long way. Yeah? We have a beautiful hadith from the first Imam, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdalu salati wa salam. Allahumma salli ala wa ali Muhammad. Where Imam alayhi salam says, a little bit of truth can extinguish a lot of batil. the way a little bit of fire can extinguish a lot of firewood. Okay? So it's very important for us to value our own efforts and to believe that an effort for the truth can go a long way. So one, Imam alayhi salam spoke truth to power. Secondly, Imam alayhi salam taught the truth to the ignorant people. Imam did not treat everybody the same in Sham. He had one way of addressing the rulers of Sham. He had another way of addressing the people of Sham. You know, we have a principle that says, التواضع مع المتواضعين. When somebody is humble, you be humble with them. والتكبر مع المتكبرين. When somebody shows arrogance to you, don't show humbleness, especially if they are rulers. There you have to show them izzah. You have to show them strength. You have to show them dignity. So when Imam is dealing with Ubaidullah, you see one type of Imam. You see the Mujahid, right? When Imam is dealing with Yazid, he shows him power and strength. But then when Imam is dealing with the people, he becomes mutawadi' with them. Okay? He converses with them. And he understands something about them. That's very important for us. Okay? There's a famous narration where Imam alayhi salam is entering the city of Sham. And as he's entering the city of Sham, he meets a sheikh. Now, sheikh does not mean scholar here. In Arabic, sheikh means what? Sheikh means an elderly person. Okay? In original Arabic, sheikh is an elderly person. Later, because elderly people were knowledgeable, so scholars were also called sheikh. Okay. So he meets a sheikh, an elderly person. And the elderly person, seeing this caravan coming in, not knowing anything about this caravan, who are the people in this caravan, he says, praise belongs to Allah who gave victory to Yazid and cleared the land of your scourge. These are his words. Straight to Imam Sajjad. Okay. Now, how does the Imam respond to this man? All right. Imam recognizes this man is ignorant. He's grown up in an ignorant environment. Nobody has taught him anything better. It is not my task to fight him. It is my task to do what? I am the Imam. It is my task to do what? To guide him. You know, we had a great Shaheed by the name of Shaheed Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr. What a great personality he was. He was a marja of taqleed. He became a mujtahid at a very young age. He was amongst the students of Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Khu'i. And he was the front row, the front line of the resistance against Saddam. So towards the end of his life, Saddam put him under house arrest. And he struggled in house arrest. Not only he was struggling, his family were with him, his kids were with him. They didn't have food in the house. He could see the effects of hunger on the face of his children. Sometimes he had to eat moldy bread. His wife would take some naan, mold on it, make it into some dinner, and then feed it to him. And subhanallah, what a great personality he was. Before I come to the main point, you know, when his wife gave him that moldy bread, it's written, it's actually catalogued. The companion was with him, he ate it. And then Shaheed Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr says, this is the best tasting food I have ever eaten in my life. You know why? Because it is fi sabilillah. I'm doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. So now, one day in Najaf, in the middle of the summer, he's looking outside the house and there's a guard, a Ba'thi, a Saddami person outside. And he's responsible of making sure nobody comes in and nobody goes out. No food comes in, no food goes out. So he says that when he looks at this guard, he's sweating profusely, sitting outside there in the middle of the summer. He says, I feel sorry for him. I wish he had a shade. I wish we could give some water to him. The companion who later wrote his biography, he says, I told the Shaheed, you know why you are under house arrest? You know why your children are hungry under house arrest? It's because of this man. And you're making dua for him. Look at the way he used to think, and I think we need to start thinking like this. Even in the community, we need to start thinking like this, okay? He said to his companion, he said, look, I and you, we grew up in the Husayniyah. We grew up with good parents. We grew up in front of the mimbar. We listened to the mimbar. So we were raised to know what are good morals. We were raised in loving families. But you don't know anything about this person. Maybe he never grew up in a masjid or a Husayniyah. Maybe he didn't have loving parents. He didn't have somebody who guided him to the right path. That's why he is where he is today. See, empathizing with his situation. Now, Imam Sajjad, when he enters Sham, he knows people are of two types. They are the elites and they are the people. The way you treat the elites is one way. The way you treat the people is another way. So he starts guiding this old man. Doesn't matter how old he is. He says, Ya Shaykh, O elderly person, Ama qara'ta al-Quran? Have you not recited the Quran? He said, yes, I have recited the Quran. He said, you know that verse of the Quran, have you recited it? وَآتِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى حَقَّى. He said, yes, I have. Imam said, we are the qurba of the Prophet. He said, have you recited that verse of the Quran? إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ. He said, yes, I have. He said, there is no other Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet on the face of this earth, but who? But us. This man, he paused. He was genuinely ignorant. He paused. After a while, he turned to the Imam and said, I did not know. Is there any way you can forgive me, Ibn Rasulullah? And the way Imam Hussein forgave Hur in Karbala, Imam Sajjad, without a moment of hesitation, forgives this man. Right? This is how Imam Sajjad guided the people. This was the jihad of Imam Sajjad. This was the jihad of tabyin, the jihad of explanation. Now, today we don't have a lot of time as we want to go into Masa'ib in a short while, but we have to reflect on our society. How many people are there today who are ignorant about Islam? Who are ignorant about Shiaism, who are ignorant about Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. And we have to ask ourselves, what is our duty and responsibility? Is it to insult them? Is it to look down upon them? Is it to shout at them? Today, for example, our brothers from the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they want to know more about Karbala. They are now interested to learn about Karbala. They're seeing that those who follow the path of Karbala are the people who stand up for justice. Yeah? They are the people who are willing to sacrifice. They are the people who put their lives on the line, yeah, because of Karbala. But they have misconceptions. Right? For example, this month of Muharram, I noticed one of the leading misconceptions that was put out there towards the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is what? Is that it is the Shia who killed Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Yeah. The people of Kufa killed Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. And the people of Kufa were Shia. The Shia killed Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. I don't know if you follow what is happening in terms of the ideas which are being promoted in the society, in the Muslim Ummah. They're being told, for example, that the reason the Shias gather, the reason why you're gathering right now, is because we Shia feel guilty for betraying Imam Hussein. So they're ignorant about it. They've been told that this was not an ideological struggle. It was what? Only a political struggle between two people, between two families, the Umayyad family and the Hashimi family. It was not an ideological struggle. So what's our duty? What's our responsibility? Is of course to preach the truth to them, to guide them towards the path of the Ahlul Bayt. The third one, the third effort of Imam As-Sajjad, the third strategy of Imam As-Sajjad alayhi salam was to organize majalis for Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Okay? There's a very beautiful book out there, Chronicles about the Martyrdom of Imam Hussein. Chronicles of the Martyrdom of Imam Hussein by Ayatollah Ray Shahri. It's been translated into English. And there he speaks about how the institution of Aza developed. And he talks about the 6 stages of the development of the institution of Aza. Today you find the way Aza is, it was not like that in the year 61 after Hijrah. It goes through stages of development. How many stages? 6 stages of development. The first stage was what? The first stage was spontaneous reaction to the tragedy of Karbala. And this happened in the year 61 in the plains of Karbala, in Kufa, in Sham. The second stage is the stage of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. Imam Sajjad takes this tragedy, takes the commemoration from being the commemoration of the Banu Hashim and makes it what? Makes it the commemoration of the Ummah. We have to understand history in context. Right? So what does the Imam do, for example? One of the narrations that you have all heard about is that Imam had this practice that he used to go into the bazaar. Yes? And when he would go in the bazaar, he would go to where? He would go to the butcher. And in front of everybody, he would ask the butcher, have you given water to this animal? And when the butcher would say, Yabna Rasulillah, how could we not give water to the animal? This is in the sunnah of the Holy Prophet. This comes down to our humanity. Then the Imam would say, but my father was martyred thirsty on the plains of Karbala. قُتِلَ الْحُسَيْنَ أَطْشَانًا, thirsty in the plains of Karbala. Right? What is the Imam doing here? Imam alayhi salam is taking this tragedy from being the tragedy only of the Banu Hashim and saying this tragedy belongs to whom? The entire Ummah. What's the second thing Imam Sajjad does? He institutes majlis and says people should gather now to remember and commemorate the tragedy of Karbala. That was stage 2. Then there are other stages. Like the third stage is the stage of Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq, Imam al-Kadhim, alayhimus salam, where now, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Where you find that the Imams alayhimus salam now institute the programs of Muharram. It's during the time of the 7th Imam that it becomes 10 days of mourning. And the day of Ashura becomes an annual day of mourning. Okay, there are the stages of development. But for Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, the majlis was the revival of the resistance. The majlis was the revival of the message of Imam al-Hussein. The majlis was the continuation of the struggle of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. The way Imam Hussein took this struggle to Karbala, Imam al-Sajjad now brings this struggle into the majlis. So my dear brothers, the majlis is not just a ritual. The majlis is one of the most powerful tools to revive the message of Karbala. To bring the message of resisting oppression, resisting the wrong ideology into the community. But we have to ask ourselves, how much of our majalis revived the message of Karbala? Yes. How much of our majalis revive the spirit of Karbala? Is it possible? Is it possible that the objective of the majlis should be different from the objective of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? That Imam al-Hussein came out for Amr bil-Ma'rufi wa Nahi anil Munkar, but we shy to do Amr bil-Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar in the majlis. Imam al-Hussein came out for the message of what? Of freedom and hurriya, but we do not speak about the message of freedom and hurriya in our majalis. You know, the first time I'm meeting most of you, and the first time perhaps you are meeting me as well, right? But it is my nature to ask thought-provoking questions. And I don't mean to put anyone down or anything down. These are the months in which we can grow. If we don't grow in these months, I ask you, when else are we supposed to grow? If we don't ask questions about ourselves and what we are doing, how else are we going to grow? We all have the same goal. We want to become a Husayni. We ask ourselves, how many of our marthiyah and nawha and lamentations, I was quite pleased, by the way, to hear the recitations today. Beautiful recitations. But otherwise, how many of our recitations actually mention the message of Imam Hussein? How many marthiyah talk about freedom and dignity and sacrifice and hayhat minna dhillah and tawheed and tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Should it not be mentioned? Right. So the third way in which Imam Sajjad alayhi salam activates the resistance with dignity is by starting the majalis of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. The fourth one and the last one, I will not go into the details of it because we also want to go through Musibah recitation this evening, is through the practice of As-Sahifa As-Sajjadiyah, by writing Sahifa Sajjadiyah. Before I come to the Sahifa, we may not appreciate sometimes how powerful the actions of the Ahlul Bayt are. Imam Al-Hasan Al-Askari has a simple hadith, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, where he says, Alamatul mu'min khams, the signs of a believer are what? 5. The first sign is what? Ziyarah of Arba'in. That is just one statement. Today you have what? Millions of people coming for Arba'in. Do not take the words of the Imam lightly. These words are very potent. They are very powerful. Okay? We think Imam Sajjad held these majalis. And the impact of these majalis is maybe like the impact of our majalis. No. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam had many sons. There are 2 sons who received the Sahifa. There are 2 sons of the Imam who received the written copy of the Sahifa. One of them is Imam Al-Baqir alayhi salam. He received the written copy. And the second one, who is the second one? The second one is Zayd bin Ali. Zayd the Shaheed. Zayd, the one who rose against the Umayyad in the year 121 after Hijrah. You say, what's the importance of Zayd? Why do we mention Zayd? You see the people of Yemen today, they are known as what? Zaydi. And their spirit comes from where? From Zayd bin Ali. And Zayd bin Ali, where do you think he learned the spirit of resistance? From the majalis that his father held for the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That majlis held in that year, in those years, and today you see the spirit of the people of Yemen. Allahu Akbar. These majalis, don't take them lightly. They are very potent. Okay. Anyways, coming now to the Sahifa, I want to end with the Sahifa. Imam alayhi salam, he revived the spirit of resisting oppression, of resisting falsehood, of resisting indignity through the Sahifa. Okay? And the Sahifa is not just a book of dua. By Allah, the Sahifa is a manual for life. In the Sahifa, the Imam alayhi salam teaches us how to live a culture of resistance. A culture of resistance meaning what? A culture of resisting falsehood. A culture of resisting injustice. A culture of resisting indignity. My dear brothers, we cannot resist falsehood and indignity if we are not part of a culture of resisting falsehood and indignity. For example, masalan, sometimes you notice, I don't know here, I'm sure here it's the same, but in Vancouver, where I come from, some of the parents, they tell me that they have to work 2 jobs. They have to work long hours. To do what? To be able to put their children in Islamic school. Yeah. And the parent told me 7 days a week I work. I work from 8 till sometimes 8, 9, 10 at night. For what purpose? Because I don't want my children to go to public school. I want my children to go to Islamic school because, he doesn't say it, but we understand it, because I want to resist falsehood. Now tell me, if a person wants a life of comfort, a life of ease, a life without what? Bala. A life without what? Difficulty. Is this person going to be able to resist what is wrong? Hayhat. You know what I learned from the Sahifa? When you read the du'as of the Sahifa, in the dua of the Sahifa, Imam is actually teaching us how to live life. Now time does not allow me, so I'm going to end over here. But one last point for you is, for example, he has a dua in there that you should recite, that he used to recite when he was what? When he was in debt. Now read that dua. Yes, there's dua for coming out of debt. But if you read it, I assure you, you're going to find in it instructions in how to live your life and how to financially manage your life. Ajib. Oh Allah, give me the ability to do tadbir of ma'isha, to be able to manage my finances. Oh Allah, make me satisfied with what you have given me. Subhanallah. Imam is building a certain culture within us. He's building a certain way of life within us. It's this way of life that will be able to say what? وَهَيْهَاتْ مِنَّ الذِّلَّةِ. Right? To say what? I will not accept falsehood. I will not accept injustice. Where do we learn that though? We learned it through the du'as of the Sahifa. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let us take our hearts to Medina tonight. And let us imagine ourselves outside Jannatul Baqi. In all the harams, even at night, the lights are on. But in Jannatul Baqi, at night, the lights are off. During the day, there are no visitors. And we do tawassul to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the sake of the Imam, join me in doing the tawassul. Ya Aba al-Hasan, يا علي بن الحسين أيها السجاد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا. One more time. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا. Allah. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he cried after the tragedy of Karbala. He cried until the year 95 after Hijrah. Somebody came to the Imam and said, Yabna Rasulillah, how long are you going to cry over the tragedy of Karbala? You should have sabr over the tragedy of Karbala. Imam alayhi salam said to him, when Yaqub lost one of his sons, and he knew that Yusuf was alive, he cried so much until his eyes became white. Do you know what happened to us on the day of Ashura? 18 members of our family were killed in front of our eyes. How can we not cry for them? Imam alayhi salam, there are two things that bothered him the most in Karbala and after Karbala. One of them was the state of the women and the children. Somebody came to the Imam and said, Yabna Rasulillah, do you not say, Inna al-mawta lana aada wa karamatuna ash-shahada, that death is normal for us and our honor and dignity is in martyrdom? Said, Yabna Rasulillah, do you not say
it bothered him was the body of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein on the day of Ashura. You find when they are leaving the land of Karbala, as they were leaving Karbala, they told the enemies, do not make us pass by the bodies of the shuhada. The women will not be able to
ہے ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی بھی ہے بیمار بھی، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی بھی ہے بیمار بھی، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی بھی ہے بیمار بھی، ہو سلام اس سمجھ کے قیدی بھی ہے بیمار بھی، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو پاؤں میں ہے آبلے اور آبلوں میں غار بھی، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی بھی ہے بیمار بھی، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو آنکھ میں آنسو اور زخم جگر میں، ہونٹوں پر دا کا نوحہ، کرب بلا سے ہے شام تلک وہ کانٹوں پہ سفر کرتا تھا بےردا سیدانیہ، اس پر ستم بازار بھی، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی بھی ہے بیمار ہے، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی بھی ہے، دیکھنے والی آنکھوں نے دیکھا اس راہ میں یہ بھی منظر، ایک مسافر پابند سفر ہے، خود اپنی لاش اٹھا کر یہ امام وقت ہے، اور قافلہ سالار بھی، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی بھی ہے، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی، خون رگوں کا یا غیرت ہاشم کہتی ہے جھکا لے سر کو، طاق و سلاسل کیا قید کرے گے، ہے صبر کے اس پیکر کو سر اٹھائے کس طرح، ہے راہ میں بازار بھی، ہو سلام اس پر کہ جو قیدی بھی ہے،